the banking sector because the banks own the mortgages and the banks are already in trouble. And if you take away their cash flow, they're going to be in bigger trouble. And so, this is not going to work.
Do you think Bernanke's really doing this to try to make the big banks loan?
I think he's doing it out of desperation. He wants to do something, and so this is what he's doing because he doesn't want to be seen as doing nothing. He's doing something. He's grasping for straws.
Okay, so if the big banks do start loaning all these trillions, Peter, won't that accelerate inflation?
If what?
If the big banks do start loaning all this money they've gorged on,
they are loaning the money. They're loaning it to the government. They're buying treasuries. They're buying. They're loaning it for home mortgages and student loans and all kinds of stuff. The money's just not sitting there. Unfortunately, if the government wasn't borrowing all this money, there'd be more money available for business.
Sure. Look. Put it in layman's terms. The point I'm trying to get at here is we saw fear mongering to get new monetary policy that the system wanted 3.5 years ago. Now we're seeing the same fear-mongering. Clearly, all the heads of the big central banks coming out and talking about gloom and doom and total collapse and greatest crisis. They know that's going to kill the stock market. So normally, even if things are bad, they'll lie and say they're great. Why did they come out in the last 48 hours and scream bloody murder, thus precipitating the stock market plunge?
Well, I don't think that was their intention. I don't think that they said, hey, let's make the stock markets go down. They were probably surprised. I bet Ben Bernanke is very surprised at the way the market reacted to his announcement yesterday. I think he probably thought the markets were going to like it. So he's probably scratching his head right now trying to figure out how to undo the damage.
But but normally you get a Federal Reserve head or an IMF or World Bank head or European Central Bank head comes out and talks about total collapse. And I've got all these headlines here. They've been doing this the last 2 days. I'm no rocket scientist, Peter. That's going to make people not have confidence.
Well, I don't know if they're talking total collapse. Who's saying that?
Oh, there's a bunch of them here saying greatest crisis, world in danger zone, Zolik. They're talking about, worse than 08. I mean, the quotes
it's going to be worse than 08. But in many cases, they're probably sugarcoating it. I don't know if they even know how bad it is. But the real problem is that the monetary system of the world does not work because the dollar is the center of it. The dollar is the focal point of all these problems. See, the world is trying to continue to grow by selling products to America. But we're broke. We can't afford these products. And even though they keep lending us money, we still can't afford them because that's how broke we are. So the only way the global economy can heal is if it gets out of this dollar system where the dollar is allowed to sink and other currencies are allowed to rise so that instead of the Chinese, for example, trying to produce goods for us, they produce goods for themselves. But meanwhile, you've got all these currency wars brewing now because of this dollar peg. Like you saw what happened in Brazil. They were upset because their currency was rising against the RMB, so they imposed tariffs, and then their currency tanked. But you've got all this global trade and currency wars because the current monetary system without gold, using the dollar instead of gold, does not work.
Okay, Peter, what about the Swiss then? What did their move a few weeks ago to lower the value of their currency do?
Yeah, more proof that it doesn't work. You have a race to the bottom now. The Swiss had a strong currency because they were doing it right. They had a vibrant economy. They didn't have government budget deficits. They had a trade surplus.
Sure.
They had a current account surplus. And then what they did is they decided to destroy their currency because it was going up against the euro. It's like, Europe was jumping off a bridge, and so Switzerland said, hey, let's jump off the same bridge. But this shows you it doesn't work. The reserve, you can't have a monetary system that forces people to be reckless and irresponsible.
Well, that's the globalist model, is lower everybody instead of building things up and get everybody dependent. So in simple information that lay folks can understand, what's going on in this crazy bond market? How have we know the U.S. is in deep trouble? Could the bonds be going up even though their yield is lower? And how does this unwind?
Well, it's going to unwind badly because, nobody who's buying, if you look at the yield on a 10-year bond at 1.7%, nobody who's buying that bond plans to hold it to maturity. No one wants to clip those coupons for 10 years. At some point, the people buying the bonds are going to want out. And the question is, who's going to be there to take the other side of the trade? The only one is going to be the Fed. And it's going to have to create massive inflation to buy up all these bonds when the bubble bursts. This is the problem. This is the mother of all bubbles. And when it bursts, interest rates go sky high. And then whatever problems we have now with our debts are going to be compounded because it's going to be so much more expensive to service them.
Okay, what would you do if you were the president, the Treasury Secretary, and the Congress all rolled in one? If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do to try to reverse the situation we're in?
If I had a magic wand, I'd probably have to go back in time because we'd have to reverse the policies from 20 or 30 years ago. That would be the thing we would do. But assuming I didn't have a magic wand, but I had powers, I had the power to, I was a king or something, and I can dictate what was going to be done. We would have to allow the economy to restructure. And what that means sound money. That means higher interest rates, substantially higher. That means we let all the banks that have to fail. We don't bail anybody out. We shrink government dramatically. We eliminate entire departments and agencies. We dramatically cut government spending. We try to reform our tax code so it doesn't punish work and entrepreneurs. We got to abolish all these rules and regulations that are unnecessarily not only diminishing our rights but running up the cost of doing business. We have to really unravel the entire social welfare monstrosity that has been built up over the years. That is the only solution that's going to work. And the problem is you're going to need a king to do that because no politician is going to vote to do that, because they're afraid that when they take away the benefits, they're not going to get reelected.
And instead, they're just going to keep running us down the same path and passing the buck. I want to do 5 more minutes with you, if you can, to end the show here. Peter Schiff joins us. And, of course, if you're watching on television via the web, you can also see his website there behind him. But we'll give you that when we come back. I want to specifically talk about, then, what's going to happen if we continue down this path versus some of the other options. And some people would spin it that Schiff is calling for austerity. That's not what he's calling for. He's calling for common sense solutions. Instead, we're going to get the king-type deal through the bureaucracy, and they're going to cut a lot of things, but only to prop up the big derivatives bubble.
Are you tired of spending money for metal canning lids year after year? Then stop. Stop buying metal lids and get Tatler reusable canning lids. Made of USDA and FDA-approved food-grade plastic, Tatler canning lids let you safely store emergency preparedness foods for years. Traditional metal lids are single-use throwaways that contain BPA, but Tatler canning lids are indefinitely reusable and guaranteed to last a lifetime when used as designed for home canning and contain no BPA. Tatler lids are dishwasher safe, perfect for standard pressure or water bath canning, eliminate food spoilage from acid corrosion, fit standard mason jars, and are proudly made in the USA. Place orders by phone at 877-747-2793 or go to reusablecanninglids.com. That's 1-877-747-2793 or go to reusablecanninglids.com. That's reusablecanninglids.com. Tatler Reusable Canning Lids, the original since 1976.
Alex Jones here with vital information concerning our nation's fragile food supply. Folks, there are some truly dangerous trends forming, and I think it's important for my listeners to do 3 things right away. Number 1, study the past. History really does repeat itself. Number 2, learn to spot the dangerous food shortage trends. Number 3, take decisive action. A perfect storm is brewing for a global food crisis. That's why I'm telling everyone to read the new book, Rising Prices, Empty Shelves. Warning signs that trigger the deadliest famines in history. Don't get caught unprepared when the crisis hits. This book is only available at risingpricesemptyshelves.com. You'll also get a free copy of Supermarket Survival, How to Cut Your Grocery Bills in Half. Again, that website is risingpricesemptyshelves.com. That's risingpricesemptyshelves.com.
What nutrition are you missing that's leading to the 4 major diseases? Cancer, arthritis, heart disease, and Parkinson's. There are at least 80,000 medical studies that show a lack of the protein glutathione to be linked to cancer, heart disease, Parkinson's, macular degeneration, lung disease, digestive diseases, diabetes, Alzheimer's, ALS, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. In all, at least 68 diseases. What is the number one food by which your body is most empowered to increase its glutathione production? It is undamaged whey protein from grass-fed cows. One World Whey is truly the first undamaged whey protein. All other whey protein powders are damaged by heat, chemicals, and filtration. One World Whey is the most life-giving whey protein powder ever produced. Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
Okay, we're going to be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central, InfoWars Nightly News. It's going to be completely jam-packed. Peter Schiff is our guest, and we put him back up there on screen. I can give folks his website. It's Peter Schiff Radio, schiffradio.com. Our websites are infowars.com and prisonplanet.tv. Again, his site is schiffradio.com. Peter, look, a lot of people are going to say you're calling for, quote, austerity. My issue is the establishment is offering a different alternative to what you've been promoting, as you know, and that's keep government big and just start cutting the military pensions and the general public's pensions, but keep the corporate welfare, the defense going, keep the bailout of the big banks going. You're calling for something different. You're talking about an across-the-board. So continue with the type of economic policy you think will get this country going.
The government is basically talking about widespread poverty if we continue on this program. I want austerity for government. I want government to shrink because that's our wealth that they're spending and dissipating. If the politicians really care about the little guy, stop spending their money. Stop regulating and taxing their jobs away. Stop destroying the value of their savings and their wages with inflation. You see, that's the only solution that works. I want the government to cut back. I don't want the people to have to be austere, but I want them to save more. I want them to earn money and not spend it. But, that's not austerity. I mean, austerity would be massive cuts in government. I want austerity for the people who are in the wagon, not the people who have been pulling the wagon. We need to lighten their burden. And the people who are riding in the wagon have to get out and push. That's what they need to do. So the government has to stop encouraging the able-bodied to go on a free ride and then ask for sacrifice by saying that the people who are pulling the cart need to pull harder so that the people in the wagon can get a smoother ride.
Well, there's no doubt that government dependency has created monstrous groups across this nation and the world, entitled, dumbed-down, crime-loving people on average, and it's killing us. The problem is government is going to use those people as their army to rob what's left of the middle class, Peter.
And the biggest irony is the very people who think they're benefiting from the government largesse, those are the ones whose standard of living is being diminished the most. If we just got the government out of the way, they would enjoy a much better quality of life in a vibrant, free economy. But, the government has got them so used to these free checks, and they're living still in poverty. They have no idea how much better their lives would be if they had freedom instead of government dole.
That's right. In the last 2 minutes we've got left, we know they're not listening to your advice. They're demonizing Ron Paul. They're probably not going to change course until things get even worse. So what's going to happen in the short term?
Hey, in the short term, there's no way to know. I mean, as I said, I think the markets are going to be under pressure until the Fed caves. And caving means giving in on the QE, coming out with a bigger plan of more asset purchases, whether it's bonds, mortgages, who knows. But I think the Fed is going to commit to additional money printing, and then, then the markets will rally, and gold will rally more, and oil will rally more. That's what's going to happen. But in the interim, can we see the dollar and the gold market or the bond markets reverse this pattern? I mean, are people going to wake up? Right now, people are buying the dollar and treasuries as if those are the safe havens. They're not the safe havens at all. I think that's where the most risk lies. So I think we need to see a change of perception among the world as to exactly what is safe and what is risky. And I think when that happens, then we see a much bigger crisis here in the U.S. because we are benefiting from the perception that there's safety in the dollar and in treasuries. But as long as that happens, it only exacerbates the imbalances. It lets our government go deeper into debt. It screws up our economy even more. Yeah, we benefit in the short run because we can consume a little bit more and go a little bit deeper into debt. But all that's going to come back to bite us in the end.
Sure, as it has been. Peter Schiff, thanks for spending time with us.
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this Thursday edition. Back live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central, and live this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. But before I'm back here tomorrow, I'll see you tonight, 7 o'clock, prisonplanet.tv, InfoWars, and Nightly News.